I'm just going to plow ahead and get going. And actually, Carrie, what I was going to say, and you're so quick, Carrie, you're so quick. I think I actually want to turn the recording off for the VHI applicant stuff.
Right, we just wanted to make that announcement at the beginning, just so that people know.
Hey, everybody, we're starting the meeting.
Okay.
Turn off the recording. Thanks, Carrie. And I see a couple of hands up. Maybe I will go with Dan MacArthur.
I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Mike Fisher to the VHI board.
Thanks, Dan. Do we have a second on that motion? Seconded by Adrian. Any discussion, board members? All right. All those in favor, if you could put up your hand and then just hold it up so I make sure that we see that. And I am seeing a unanimous vote. Thank you, board members. Congratulations to Mike. I will make sure either Sue or I or both of us will reach out to Mike and let him know. And certainly want to thank all of the applicants who put in to serve in this role. We greatly appreciate it. All right, board members. I am at the point of the meeting where I am very glad, I believe, to turn things over to VSBA staff as we engage a little bit more on our work on strategic planning. And
so that will be Phil and Sandra. I think Phil's going to take the lead.
Okay.
Thanks, Sue. So this evening we have an opportunity to continue the work that was started in April. And we're going to revisit in the small groups that we were in a month ago. And I know, there's some people that weren't here in April and others that aren't here in May, but the intent is to be in the same group and take a look at what you said was important to you in your beliefs, and then components about a vision for VSBA. But we're going to take the beliefs first. And this is very foundational to strategic plan work. It's important at the end of the day that when the plan is completed, you can see your beliefs that are woven throughout the various components of the plan, whether that's the goal statements or the activities that are in the plan, that there's a coherence to it. I had a board member just this week use the word cohesiveness to their strategic plan, that it sticks together. And so we'll be looking for that as we go along. Tonight, the facilitators, you've got 3 executive committee members that will be leading the conversation for 20 minutes on the topic of beliefs. And here we're looking for statements. So the VSBA Board of Directors believes and very specific things that you believe. We'll work for 20 minutes in those small groups and the facilitators will move it along. I believe Carrie has it set so we automatically come back into the main room after 20 minutes. What we're asking to have happen in the small groups is for each group to select their top 3 belief statements, so that those 3 statements are then brought forward, and the larger group will be able to vote. And we have a virtual dot voting opportunity where you'll be able to click on the belief statement that's most important to you. And we'll explain that process as we go along, and then probably take a break at the end of that and then go into the components of a vision. So the intent is that we're in person in June. We're hoping to have a few hours in June together to be able to complete, look at a draft vision statement for the association that comes from the board. And we know process-wise that has to be approved by the membership. So at the meeting in the fall, that'll be proposed to them. But we want a draft vision statement and hopefully also a draft mission statement. So we included in your packet this month some attributes of a high quality vision statement or a high quality mission statement. And hopefully you've had a chance to look at those and kind of keep that in mind as we move forward, that we want this to be as powerful as it possibly can. Are there any questions before we go into the small groups? And each of your facilitators in the small group will have some directions to give to make that more clear. Sandra or Sue, anything to add? The wizard behind the screen now is going to push a button and we all just disappear, or we have to click join.
See you in the group.
Carrie, I tried to click join, but it disappeared.
All right, let me put you in then. Let's see.
Thank you. And you can probably stop recording now too.
Oh, yes.
They were able to make it 3.
We had 4 at one point. We cut it back to 3.
We might have had about 6 or 7 statements that ended up in 3, but
We used the word "and" judiciously.
We
That
had
last-
one, but then
Oh,
we
really
added 2 more.
Is there one group that only had 2?
Yes, we
Okay,
threw out our third one.
wow.
all right.
Wow.
Just want to make sure.
Impressive. So what Carrie's doing right now is merging your synthesized beliefs from the 3 groups into one spreadsheet. And then she will share with us that spreadsheet where you will have the opportunity to review and select your top 3. And we'll talk to you about how to indicate your choices once she shares the spreadsheet with us.
All right, I am sharing the spreadsheet, please.
And while each person gets 3 votes, the intent is that we're actually coming up with the top 5 statements. And so it'll go farther than we think at first. Also, I'm really curious, Sandra, as we start to see the statements, if some are overlapped from the different groups.
I wonder that too. So you should be able to click into the spreadsheet. If you go to the chat, there's a link there. Let us know if you need any help with that.
It doesn't want to let me in.
Oh,
I was logged in with a different account.
You need access. Yeah. Okay.
Is there any way that you can
Put it on screen.
make it open or put it on screen? Getting logged into accounts is rather difficult on this computer for me.
We could put it on the screen, but you can't vote on the screen. So
well, that's a mess.
Well, you
Why-
could
why
tell
can't
one of
people-
us, Mark, like
Yes.
if you aren't able to do it yourself, you could just let one of us know and we'll check them off for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Should we do our votes in the chat?
no, you do your votes on the actual document. You'll find your name on the document and just put a 1 on the rows that you want to vote on.
I think a few of us are having a challenge
Yeah.
with logging into the document because of different browsers being set up with different email addresses.
So,
my
I
default
can't see
browser
the
is-
document
oh, you can't see it, Adrian.
because
Neither
I'm
can
not,
I- neither
I'm
can I.
not getting access.
Right, I requested access. It said I'd get an email if I had access.
Well, let me check that out because I gave it all access when I made the link.
Can
Well,
everyone
I
see
just
this in?
switched to my school email, but it doesn't seem to. It's still sending a request to you.
And I can further get complicated because I'm on an iPad and I can't switch back and forth that easily.
Can everyone
I-
see this in the Zoom screen?
I'm changing the access right now. You should be, okay, refresh if you need to, and then try again.
Ah, there it comes.
Oh, yeah, that works.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
if there are just a few folks who need help, I'm happy to go through once you have a chance to review them. I know, Mark, you might want me to check off for you.
Can you clarify that what we're supposed to do is just put a 1 instead of a?
Yeah, and some of these are not going to show up. We need kind of to wrap some text here, it looks like.
Yeah, can you read them? Because I can only see like number 2, it stops at democracy.
I'm gonna
And
wrap
it
the
appears
text.
2,
There you
3,
go.
4. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting us learn while we go.
It's not allowing me to edit, so I need editing rights. We probably all need
Who is
editing
saying that? I'm
rights.
sorry, I'm looking at a different screen. Who is saying that?
So
Colleen.
on the access,
Colleen?
we all need
Colleen.
public
We all need
view
it.
and we all need editing access.
All
Editing
right.
rights.
Try again, Colleen.
We all need to have, it's now in public view, but now we also need to have editing rights. So if you go
I
to
did that.
share,
I did it. So go ahead and see if you can edit now.
it's not allowing me to edit.
Try refreshing.
Got it. It
Okay.
works now. Thank you.
Perfect. Sure.
So does everyone understand that you have 3 votes? You each have 3 votes. You could put all 3 of your votes onto one of these. You could decide to put 1 vote on 3 of these. That's up to you.
You could pick 2.
Mhm.
Right. If you put more than 1 vote on one of them, enter that numeral. So 1, 2, or 3, because it's going to auto tally.
So I still can't, I can click on a square, but I can't make an entry in that square.
Same here.
Can you
Same.
refresh it?
Yep. I've refreshed it multiple times.
If there's
Can we
just,
just vote in the chat?
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes,
don't
and
care.
I'll fill it in.
So we have 3 votes and we can put them in the chat.
Yes.
Okay.
So I completed my votes. Did I do it correctly?
it looks like you've got your 3 in there.
I mean, you may not agree with me, but you just put 1, but you,
Yes.
if
1, 1,
you
1.
want 1, you want to see 3 at the bottom.
Right.
There are 8 to choose from.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I saw them all.
So Sandra, at some point, I need your help.
Okay.
Because on my screen, it says number 2, Public Education Foundation of and for Democracy, VSBA is the glue that ties local school boards and stops there. And then 3 says respectful of different positions of school boards, public education in Vermont is critically put. So they're not breaking clean.
Right. And you can't see Carrie's screen share
Oh, that's not my screen share. I don't know
or
who's.
Phil's screen share.
What I see right now is I have these 8 different statements, 9, I guess. I can't see the 9th one.
9's blank.
9 is blank.
Don, hit F5 to refresh the page. They should come up.
Okay. S5.
Right. And as far as I can tell, no one has voted in chat yet. Is that correct?
I am now voting in chat.
Okay. Just put the numbers in you want to vote for.
Sandra, I sent mine directly to you.
Okay.
Okay. I am still
All right, I'll
getting,
put Dan's in.
Mark.
okay, nothing's happening when I click on Don.
Nice picture there, Don. That's a nice picture.
What are you seeing?
I'm not
Oh,
seeing.
that's my grandson. My wife's screen changed. She didn't realize it, but instead of Susan Collins in my photo, it's my grandson on his phone calling his grandmother, I guess.
No, it's
he's
a little
now-
baby. It's a little baby with a bottle, it looks like.
Is
That's
that a
not
bottle?
common.
Okay, maybe it is. I think it's a phone. He's now 17, so grandma's a little outdated, but that's okay.
A great picture.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is. Yeah. I got one better. When I was running for the Senate, he's standing near a sign saying, vote for my grandfather. Okay, so. I like number 7, public education is the greatest equalizer. That's a good one.
Adrian, 8 and 7.
Would you like me to put a number there for you, Don?
Yes, I would.
Okay, number 7, you've got 1 there.
And public educate, no. See, my number 2 is all mixed up on my screen. But what I liked is that VSBA is the glue that ties together local school boards and is respectful of different positions.
Okay, that's number 3. So I'll give you one there. You've got one more.
Mark M.
Education Foundation. Democracy. Let's go with education as a fundamental right.
Okay, number 8. So Don, I have 3, 7, 8.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Lisa, I'm confused by your vote. 2 votes, 1 vote, 1, 2 votes for Lisa, not 1.
So I was doing something else because I'm at work. And so I wanted 2 votes for number 4, 1 vote for number 1. I was trying to clarify it.
2
so
votes, 2 votes for 4, 1 for
1
1.
vote. Yeah,
Gotcha. You are voted.
thank you.
Yep.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I kind of
Guest-
put
is
my
guest
numbers
on here?
down. I put my numbers down wrong, but it doesn't really matter, I don't think.
Gaston, are you here?
Jim, you had 1, 5, and 7.
Yeah, I was gonna do something different, but that's okay.
I can
We
change
can
it.
always
if you-
change it, yeah.
Yep.
Because I meant I think 1, 4, and 6.
Okay.
Tara, are you here? Nancy? Mark C? Dave?
Which David?
I think it's the other David.
Okay.
Sharp.
Do you
Dave
have
Sharp.
me?
Yeah, Sharp, David Sharp. I'm sorry. I was thinking and not speaking at the same time. And Jeremy is not here. Kevin Amiot's not here. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Mark McNeil? All right. I think everyone has voted then.
Can we change our votes? Like, do we want to add some weight?
We
Yeah, I
could,
didn't realize we were allowed to weight the voting, with more than one vote on one thing.
Sure, no problem. If you want to change them, just tell us what you want to change it to.
well, that's kind of cheating, isn't it?
I
That's
don't,
Is it like-
Vermont politics.
I don't
Backing
agree
a
with
horse
that.
with the
I don't agree with that. I think you get 3 votes and you don't put them all in one place. But I know that's only my
All right.
opinion. This sounds like the US Supreme Court right now.
I'm starting to wonder.
Or the Vermont political
Are you ready
system,
for me
Don.
to sort it? Is everyone voted? Is everyone complete?
I just want to double check. David Chandler, you only want 2 votes?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've decided that I've said what I need to say.
Okay, just making
Alright.
sure.
If everyone's done, is everyone done? Voting has ended. Let me go ahead and sort it.
And I don't think we end in a tie, so that's good.
Oh, we do. Actually, we have 3 6s
Yeah.
and 1 9.
We're coming up with the top 5, though.
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. All right, they are sorted by tally.
Great.
Do
So
you want me to sort them the other way? I'm sorry. It looks like maybe I sorted from small to large.
we'll let
I
you-
don't think it matters. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
We're multidimensional thinkers.
Yeah, we followed our passion.
Do we want to take a 5-minute break right now? Are people ready for a break? Should we push on and have the break afterwards? What's the preference? I'm looking at Sue and Neil.
I think the next step, Phil, is how long?
It'll be 20 minutes in the small group with on vision components and then reporting back out.
I would say, let's see if we can plow ahead and we'll take a break after that.
Okay.
Agreed.
Carrie
Alright.
push the button
Which-
behind the screen.
The woman behind the screen. Okay, let me just make sure it's still set for 20 minutes, and it is. So don't forget, it'll pop you back in here after 20 minutes. And you're off. Oh, we have 2 unassigned. Martine, I need to put you in a room. Sorry, it'll just take me a second here.
Thank you.
Yep. To figure out which room you are in. Should not take long. There, you're in group 2.
Thank you.
Yep.
Carrie, I still need
Is
you.
that's you, Phil, the VSBA person? You're in
Um,
group 2 as well.
Can
You might want to change your name, just so you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got kicked out of Zoom earlier.
Oh, no. Okay, there you go. You're all set. Don, are you there?
I am here, Carrie. Where would you like me?
You didn't get the little join button that popped
Here
up?
comes up a little blue joint.
There you go. Enjoy your room.
So I guess then what I want to do is step in. So first, huge thanks to Phil and Sandra and Carrie for organizing this. We had to make a pivot at the last minute when we decided to hold this meeting remotely over Zoom versus in person. And they did a great job in figuring out how we were going to get all of this input together efficiently. And despite maybe some of the challenges of using the technology, I think that this was a great experience. And so I think you just wanted me to go through and sort of read off then where we ended up, both on the belief end of things as well as on the vision side of things. Am I correct with that, Phil and
Yeah,
Sandra?
if you don't mind, kind of summarize what the group has put forward.
Yeah, so if I take a look at the beliefs area of things, pretty big support that public education is the foundation of and for democracy. We saw that come out, I think, in several groups. The next highest up there is that school boards and their communities need to understand their jobs, roles, and responsibilities of school boards and their members. And the one thing, at least as I'm trying to synthesize some of this in my own head right now, I see a pretty decent overlap between that and then what we ended up in the vision area of things too, is that it's VSBA's job, or that we are the leader in helping those boards and those communities understand those jobs, roles, and responsibilities. As far as the beliefs go, we see then again this idea pop up that public education is critically important for democracy, and is it the engine that drives economic development and the core of a strong community. And so really, I mean, perhaps not unexpectedly, there's a lot of, I think, great overlap between what we believe and then what we believe the vision of the VSBA should be, right? And so I think that this, you know, if I'm not mistaken, sort of Phil and Sandra, that this, I think, sets us up, but we're in a pretty good position, I think, at this point to sort of continue this development of you know, vision and mission for the VSBA based on what we worked on this evening.
Yeah, this was some really good work, Neil, and it does begin to give some strong direction. So that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other remaining activities related to strategic planning that we wanted to work through tonight, or is this does this encompass it?
I think we're done with this item for right now. Is that right, Sandra?
Just wanted to let folks know what to expect next. I think there were a few things around that. Phil, do you have those bullet points in front of you?
I don't at the moment. Let me stop the share there.
Going from memory, and you can correct me when you find it if I'm wrong. So when we get together in June, whether that's virtual, live, or hybrid format, we will work to refine the vision based on the work that we did tonight, and then begin similar work around the mission statement, which will lead us toward goals. And then eventually onto a strategic plan. So there's multi-steps and we are making progress. So thanks again for all of your input.
This is really exciting stuff. I've been around VSBA for quite some time, and I really feel very good about what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Nice.
Thanks, Don.
Any other board members with comments on, you know, either the process this evening or where we're headed next? No. All right, board members, this is unique. Oh, Dan, go ahead.
Neil, just let me say that June 8th will be my 51st wedding anniversary, and I'm not sure I will either be there Zooming or in person. So priorities must be paid attention to. So
yeah,
anyway, that's a disclaimer.
Absolutely. So number one, congratulations, sir. Assuming that you will actually make it to the 51st anniversary, right? That nothing happens in between there. You've been a good husband and all of that stuff, right? And secondly, I think we also then need to thank your wife for allowing you to be able to do all of this work with us, right? We have, you know, behind every one of us is likely a spouse or a friend or a colleague that's supporting the work that we do here. So they deserve a lot of thank you as well too. So
absolutely, to all of them, yes.
Okay, so for the first time since I've been doing these things virtually, we're actually going to give you a brief break this evening before we come back and tackle the rest of the agenda. Now, I will say, we are not a public body. So if some of you want to go off and grab a beverage, an adult beverage, and bring it back, you will not be scolded by the chair, as long as you continue to function properly for the remainder of the meeting. That's okay. So let's do 10 minutes. Is that good for folks? And we'll be back here by my clock, 7:04. We're going to pick it right up. Okay. Yes, Carrie, I was just about to say, Carrie, could you start the recording? You're so good at this. So before we jump back into the agenda, just a brief sort of digression, I guess. I shared a link in the chat for a website that is Charity Bagels. And the reason why I want to bring this forward to you all tonight was because a couple of months back, we had a student from my local school district come to a school board meeting and present about a project that he had been working on called Charity Bagels. The short story is that he was a student that relocated to our area from, I believe, the West Coast, and was upset to find that we didn't have a whole lot of great choices for good bagels in our area. So the first thing that I think he tried to do is to sort of see if he could develop a bagel business. I guess that didn't quite work out the way that he thought it. But what he did stumble upon, which has been rather successful, is he develops these kits for making bagels at home. And I have had some of these homemade bagels, and they are really quite good. He's taken all of the guesswork out of making bagels at home by giving you a kit that has all of the ingredients in it, linked to a YouTube video that you can watch that gives you the instructions. And these bagels turn out pretty dang good. He has turned this, though, also into an opportunity for giving back to the community or for also doing fundraising. And when he presented at our board, local board a while back, I suggested to him that I would be willing to bring this information forward to VSBA. And so that's why I'm sharing this all with you tonight. His name is Leo Barnes. He is from Hanover High School, and his business, his company is called Charity Bagels. And what he would like to do is to get the word out to school boards or school districts in Vermont if they are interested in joining on for this fundraising effort. Just a little bit of background. It's a local startup by Hanover High senior Leo Barnes that he's now tied into a fundraising mechanism using these homemade bagel kits. As I had mentioned before, each one of them has the pre-measured ingredients and all the instructions that you need to get. One of the reasons why it's called Charity Bagels is because how he had originally promoted this, he suggested that these kits can make a dozen bagels. Not everybody needs to eat a dozen bagels. So you make a dozen, and you give 6 away to somebody else. That's the charity part of things. He's got over 500 customers now, and the number keeps growing. This is just an example of some of the fundraising that he's been able to do so far. And we wanted to get the word out through you guys to see if your local districts might be interested in this. What he's working on next is a fundraiser to help feed Ukrainian refugees. And as he noted here, he sort of tied this directly into the VSBA, knowing that there are 11 regions that we represent. And what he'd like to do ideally is run at least one fundraiser in each of the regions and hope to raise over $20,000. The next steps for you guys is that if you are interested, I would encourage you to please reach out to Leo. You can contact him through the website that I dumped into the chat. From there, you can find out a little bit more information about his business, what he does, and he also includes some pieces that were run in our local newspaper around the effort as well too. And you can see some of the videos where he describes things in a little bit more detail, certainly more time than I've got to give this information to you tonight. So there's what some of those yummy bagels actually look like. And I will admit they are quite tasty. So please, if you're interested, if you think your school might be interested, please reach out to Leo and let him know. And he will do everything that he can to get you all up and running. So with that, I am going to hop back into the agenda. And the next item that we've got is we need to appoint members to our awards committee. It should be a limited engagement. What we're looking for is probably about 4 to 5 board members that would be willing to do this. Sue, I am guessing 1 meeting, maybe 2 at the most, virtual.
Yeah.
And I think there are 2 awards that the VSBA issues. Am I correct in that?
Yes, so the Exceptional School Board Leadership Award is issued every year. The Stafford Bell Award has not been issued every year. I think that last year's award committee was considering trying to flesh that out a little bit more. But that's up to this year's awards committee if they want to take on that task or not.
Okay, so what I am hoping for is if we've got 4 or 5 board members that are willing to volunteer for this committee tonight, then we are all set. If you're not sure and want to think about it, you can do that as well too. But then after a certain point, I might just reach out and start to appoint people if we don't have the 4 or 5 that we have ready to go. Adrian, are you interested? Perfect. So let's add Adrian. Anyone else this evening? Limit engagement, 2 meetings tops, remote, via Zoom. You can do it from your living room. Come on, gang. All right, Mark Schauber, number 2. Thank you. All right, Anybody else that's interested? Amy McMullen, number 3. Oh my gosh, we're getting so close. We're getting so close. And Martine, number 4. Folks, I'm going to say that we are done with our committee formation. Thank you so much, guys, and we promise this will not be onerous. And it's a great way to participate and get to learn a little bit more, maybe about some other school boards in the state. So thank you. So I imagine we will then reach out to get a meeting scheduled for those folks.
Yes, it might take a little while to, we'll get a meeting scheduled, but it may not be, the committee might not meet right away because we need to get information out and get some information back about applicants for the award.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, I think we would have a meeting after we have the applicants for the Exceptional School Board Leadership Award.
Okay, sounds good. So stay tuned, folks. We will be in touch. The next item that we're going to move on to is a proposal from the Policy Committee. What was included in your packet for this evening is considered sort of a first read. So just as a little refresher for board members, a while back, Don Collins had brought up a suggestion that the Policy Committee convene and take a look at the process that is currently in place to determine VSBA board positions when we don't have a resolution that already covers the topic or the board has not already determined a position on a topic. So convene the Policy Committee. It was Mark Schauber, Amy McMullen, Nancy Russell, and Gaston Batalon, and myself were the members of the committee. Sue participated as well too. We had three or four meetings where we discussed this. And what you see in the packet this evening is the draft proposal that's coming from the committee. At this point, I would like to turn it over, though, to maybe one of the members of the committee, either Mark or Amy, if you guys wouldn't mind, maybe just giving board members like a high-level overview of what they're looking at tonight. And I saw Mark raise his hand.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it. So Neil said Don had wanted us to look at ways to involve more people in some of the faster decision making that has to be made so that Sue can testify. And then we also felt that in today's day and age, we're coming off a couple of years of working in the Zoom environment, that it's possible to gather people on a short notice. So in talking about it, we came down to kind of 4 different options. Hold on a second. We could maintain the status quo, which is the executive committee creates a policy decision or advisory decision, and then the whole board ratifies it. The other was to expand the executive committee. Another was to develop a mechanism for the entire board to come together and make decisions. And the other is kind of not really a viable one, but to decline the invitations to testify, which would kind of defeat a lot of the purpose of what the VSBA does. We ended up coming up with a hybrid approach to, I think it was expanding the executive committee and developing a mechanism to bring the entire board together. And that is to create a legislative committee, which would be made up of the entire executive committee and a representative from each region, each of the 11 regions. That could be brought together with a call from the executive director or the board president on short notice. Members of that committee would be kind of expected to stay up to date on what was going on in Montpelier, more or less by reading the weekly legislative updates that we now receive that are really chock full of great information, and then to come up with a position. Each member well, okay, so a quorum would be made up of 2 members of the executive committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, but 6 of the regions.
I believe that's correct.
And each member would have 1 vote, and we'd come up with a decision. That decision would be a final decision for the VSBA. It would not be brought back to the whole board, although it would be discussed with the whole board. Nothing done in secret, obviously. If for some reason a quorum can't be had, then we would revert back to our current policy, which is the executive committee would make the decision. Then it would be brought back to the whole board. So we thought that this was a pretty good way to move forward. What we're proposing is that we start with a policy, iron out any of the hiccups that we may see with a new policy and a new way of doing business. And then in a year or 2, codify it in a bylaw. Unless I missed anything, I'll turn it over to Neil or Amy.
Yeah, Amy, anything else that you think we might want to add here?
No, Mark, you did a great job.
Thank you. I want to say one thing, which is this was not an easy topic to come up with a solution for. And I thought that the members of the committee really did a very thoughtful and a good job of working through all the different options and really coming up with what we thought was best for not specific regions or specific boards, but for the whole organization to move us forward.
Thanks, Mark. So at this point, we do have a little bit of time set aside tonight. If folks want to talk about this, if you've got questions about the draft, the intention is not to have us vote on this evening. We'll bring it forward for either the June meeting or after that, depending on how the discussion, the consideration of this goes. And but wanted to get your feedback on what you saw at this point. Colleen, go ahead.
Yeah, I thank you to the committee for spending the time on this. I imagine it was a very rich set of discussions, trying to ensure strong representation across the VSBA board and so forth. Being the newest member to the executive committee, I just want to share that I, quite frankly, was surprised at not only the number of meetings, but the depth of need to really be on top of what's going on in the legislative session, giving testimony and so forth, in the sense that things were changing. This last legislative session, it was supposed to be quiet, but things were changing so fast that by the time the weekly legislative update came out, that was like old news and not even relevant anymore sometimes, because just the demand to respond quickly. So I'm thinking about the mechanics of how this would work. And the executive committee had on the calendar every Thursday morning, 8 o'clock, we sign on. Sometimes we're there until 9:30. So that commitment, for my work, that I had to block that out, that time slot. So I guess I'm concerned about being able to have that number of people available immediately for whatever issues are coming up. And I'm just wondering how the committee, how you saw that working out. Did you see this as a weekly meeting, for example, that's just on everybody's calendar? So I'm just curious about that.
Sure, and I saw Amy's hand go up.
Yeah. So Neil and Mark, correct me if I'm misleading people. We did not see it as a regular meeting time, but that it would happen only when there was something happening in the in the legislature, that there wasn't already a resolution. to give guidance to Sue. So because that doesn't happen very often, this group would not need to meet until that event occurred. And we had at least a couple of hours of discussion exactly on that topic of how often would they meet and how much of a time dedication. The only dedication that we were looking for was that whoever is on this committee be able to meet at not quite a moment's notice, but close to a moment's notice, and to keep up to date with what was happening in the legislature.
Thank you, Amy. Mark, did you want to jump in?
Want to add two quick things. One, we did discuss the possibility of having a standing meeting, and ultimately decided that because of the number of times that we were likely, the committee would be likely to be called upon to come up with a policy decision position, that it wouldn't be efficient to kind of have a weekly meeting. And the other thing is, and I left this out, we're expecting that all the members, all the regional members that would be part of this committee are going to be volunteers, and will know what they're getting into and know that they need to stay abreast of what's going on in the legislature, so that they can be available to make decisions on a short notice.
Thanks, Mark. Kim, you're the next hand up, but you've gone off screen. Oh, she's back.
Sorry, I was listening, but my computer is about to die, which means we should be almost done. So the logistics strike me as being interesting. The other thing, and it probably doesn't matter for this board, but a committee that's essentially half of the full board is going to constitute a quorum of the regular board. And again, I guess we're not a public body, so maybe it doesn't matter. And I don't know if that's an issue, if that's anything you all thought about. And we essentially have 2 members from each region, and each are usually sort of splitting up the committees that already exist. And I wonder where this adds on that idea of being available at a moment's notice. And I do know how important the immediacy of response is for Sue's sake. And I know from the executive committee meetings, those are really valuable. I know because I was very close to a lot of the legislative work this session, how rapidly it moves. And so, truly, if you're not listening in the moment it's happening to the committee conversations, you are probably not current. And so I think that that's a tall order for half of this board. And so I guess I'm just concerned about the logistics. I think additional voice in those conversations may be important. And I don't know how to be most helpful to inform the important voice that Sue brings to the legislature. So those are some of the worries when I think about it.
Thank you, Kim. Adrian.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm not, I guess I'm a little confused. I don't know what given this committee, which would give legislative advice at the drop of a hat at a moment's notice, what is then the purpose of the executive committee, which is how I perceived a huge part of our role was, and to then sideline that committee to only needing 2 of them to be members or to be present during those conversations is odd to me. And I don't really understand it. If the idea is that we're trying to make sure that all regions are submit, or are submitting their opinions, then maybe the idea is that the executive committee needs to be expanded, makes it a little bit unworkable in size, and you'd have an executive committee composed of half of the board members. But that's what we're talking about for this legislative advice. And I mean, honestly, I'd very much like to be part of that group, but if you add that on to the executive committee responsibilities on top of that, I'm really a little confused as to what problem was being solved by this policy. I guess that's my ultimate question. And I'm not being critical. This is a serious question because it does seem to be duplication of effort and making the whole process a little more cumbersome for something that needs to be in the moment.
Thanks, Adrian. My suggestion is, let's see if committee members, if we can just sort of write down some of these things, and I might suggest that we maybe spin up one more policy committee meeting just to review some of the comments that we're hearing tonight to see if there's some further action that's necessary. Flora, go ahead.
So I have a wondering question and also just a comment. I agree with what Adrian just said. I think part of being the executive, part of our role as an executive committee is to be able to come together and take those, special responsibilities and in behalf of the board to act quickly, right? That's sort of the way that we've been acting. So maybe what we're talking about is maybe just looking back and maybe doing evaluation of how the executive committee is, like how can we improve that executive committee rather than make our governance more cumbersome and not nimble enough to be effective at the legislature. That's one question or one thought. And then the other one is that maybe having sorry for the timer going on, my kids and my husband are cooking, sorry. And I just lost my train of thought. Creating that committee might be something that we want to create for doing the resolutions. In this, maybe we do need a committee that we don't have to do a resolutions committee every year, although that is kind of fun. But we have a committee that all it does is like go through our existing resolutions, and that policy committee just examines how we did over the year, but it has nothing to do with our day to day. I think having a committee that is that big is not in the best interest for us being best advocates. That's just my thinking.
Thank you, Flora. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I actually think that members of this VSBA board are reasonably well up to speed on what's going on. All of us are following the legislature. Maybe we're not listening to all the testimony, but I think it's, I feel a bit of a slap in the face when people say, well, if you're from, unless you're on the executive committee, you don't really know what's going on. Also, I guess I applaud this motion or this proposal because I actually sent in, as all of you members of the executive committee already know, a couple of instances where I felt like the executive committee had acted not in the best interests of the VSBA. And I think that we're still seeing the ramifications of that. And I don't believe that would have happened if there had been this legislative committee who might have said, you know what, there are a couple of things that are about to happen. Let's not let them happen, and let's not, do things that, in my opinion, then became detrimental to the organization. So I think, especially as Mark and Amy said earlier, it's possible to get people together on short basis, on a quick notice, and make some decisions. And the more people you have looking in on those decisions, the better they're going to be. Especially if, which again, I believe is to a certain extent has been true, the executive committee becomes a little bit insular. So you wanted to know why I would support this, and I put it right out there.
Thank you, Dan. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, potentially having more people involved in the process, that could be a good idea. I think that, we all need to keep in mind that, the whole process with respect to, having someone work at, someone from the board trying to provide input and feedback and a sounding board for Sue really is, that's what really is trying to get accomplished by, I think, in the past, we probably had times, especially, before Zoom, when there weren't a lot of executive committee meetings, and most likely the executive director at that point just had to make their own call on, on how to interpret the resolutions and how they fit into legislation that is in the works. And one of the things that sort of surprised me over the past, couple of years is the amount of stuff that Sue is called upon to provide testimony on, and how, you could have, a particular bill, okay, S-286, but it's like, there are 43 different, elements of it, and they're asking her to provide testimony on one narrow element of a bill. It's tough. It's really tough on the ED to have to respond to all that. And I think, essentially what I think we've tried to provide is sort of a sounding board for Sue to accomplish that. And, there is no perfect solution for that, but I think at the same time, if it were, a few more people involved or something, maybe the product would be even better. But I think the thing that you'd be very surprised at is we have weekly meetings, but we end up having, emergency feedback in the interim too. I mean, it's the amount that Sue is, the amount of load that Sue has to take on with the legislature it's kind of dumb right now. It's, the legislature is just, they're so freaking active, it's ridiculous. And there's a lot of emergency work to be done. So I think, we need to keep in mind what we're really trying to accomplish here. We do want the board to all feel represented, but at the same time, the key thing here is one of Sue's primary jobs is providing input from this organization, and we have to make her job, easier rather than harder. And I think rejiggering the who's involved in the conversation is fine, but I think everybody has to expect, with a legislature that's as active as this legislature has been, that you're going to be on call all the time, because it's been a little silly, to date. I had one of our local legislators at one point say to me, "You probably think we don't do enough in Montpelier," and I said, "No, you do way too much." And I think that's the problem. So a different structure, is worth talking about, but at the same time, I think we need to recognize that the board needs to provide support to Sue, because she is representing all of this, and it's a significant load.
Thank you, Jim. Looking at the time, I want to get some comments from Colleen from Policy Committee. I think what I'd like to do is take some of the feedback that we've gotten tonight. We'll see if we can schedule another meeting and think about some of the points that have been made here. But maybe after Colleen's comment, then I think I want to move on to the report of the Finance Committee. Go ahead, Colleen.
I'll be quick. I'm just thinking that, what I'm hearing is underlying not understanding of the process, or, how the executive committee operates, but I'm thinking perhaps there's a mechanism of developing a set of questions or criteria that, when issues come up, what are the different points that the committee discusses. I just know that from being very new to it, I was very impressed with the members in the committee, that in each time there was a difficult topic, and there were difficult topics every time, and Sue would ask us to, watch testimony prior to our meetings and so forth. But every time there was a difficult topic, the group really took the time to understand how whatever the issue was would play out in the different parts of the state. I'm from a large district in Chittenden County, and we understand that it's completely different in different parts of the state. And that was one thing that we really tried to do, is how whatever the position was, is it reflected in resolutions, and how would others interpret whatever our sounding board consensus might have been, or maybe not even consensus, but these are the pertinent issues. So perhaps as the policy committee goes back to this topic, perhaps, part of the discussion is, what are the 4 questions you want to make sure that get addressed when an issue comes up? And are these, do we agree that this is how it plays out? But, I understand the interest in others wanting to be part of the conversation, because it, really is interesting conversation.
Thank you, Colleen. So board, we will continue the conversation. Policy committee will review these comments and see if there are any things that we want to suggest for, maybe changes in the current draft. And let's plan on talking about this some more at the next VSBA meeting. So
Many thanks.
with that,
Thank you.
oh, please. So going to turn it over now to a report from the Finance Committee. And it's included in your packet, yes?
Yeah, okay, so this is basically the introduction of the budget for fiscal 23. The Finance Committee has met a few times. We've reviewed the changes, reviewed the budget, made a few little tweaks and all, and just want to give you an intro to that. The Finance Committee is also working a little bit on, we still have a bit to do on some financial policies that we'll be bringing to the board in the future. And also, as one of my favorite long-term topics, the possibility of doing something different investment-wise with our reserve funds. That'll be coming in the future. But for today, it's basically the fiscal 23 budget. Just to kind of, feel free to break in or ask questions or whatever, but to kind of give a quick run through. The cover sheet, gives you some of the key items that are changing, and I'm not going to go through, each and every one. It has, annual conference, contract database, etc. One of the big ones is always dues, and wanted to address that. The Finance Committee, looked at it. We made a change in our bylaws last year that was intended. We used to just have dues could never increase by more than education spending. And so we tried to create something that was a little bit more flexible and actually provided better information to the board. And I think we changed that bylaw, and there's a page in there on VSBA dues versus education spending and 3-year averages. And I think it's kind of useful because it really does present, now the idea is that we should hold, not in a particular year, or do we necessarily need to hold education spending to within the increase, hold dues to less than or equal to education spending increase, because that can be kind of unworkable in a particular year. It hasn't been in the past, but we want to make sure that we are growing our dues at a slower rate than education spending is increasing over time. If you look at that chart, it shows, our VSBA dues actually, as we made the change in our fiscal year, our VSBA dues stayed flat for quite a few years. So if you look at, not even including all those flat years, if you look at the due increase at this point is a 5% increase proposed for fiscal 23, which is decent sized, except that follows years of 0, 0, 0, 1.3%. So kind of it's a slight catch up. It brings us to a 3-year average increase of 2.1% versus education spending growing at a 3-year average of 3.37%. So hopefully this is actually better information and providing a little bit more flexibility for the organization to, to be able to, we've talked before is, someday is a staff of 4 going to be too small, and, we could need to add something else. That's, those are the sort of circumstances that we'd have to have some more flexibility in the future. But anyway, what it shows is our history of dues is actually pretty good. So this year we proposed a 5% increase. Other significant sort of changes, there's one in the benefits line that is, we've historically a solution for people's 403B plan. And what we found is that actually most of our sort of fellow Vs are doing 10%. And so that, and we found when Phil came in from down south, he was north of that. So the decision was that really, to be competitive with other organizations similar to ours, that we should make that change. So that's built into the budget right now, an increase from a 5% to a 10% contribution to the 403B for our people. Other than that, those are really kind of the big changes in the budget. I'd be happy to take any questions on any individual items. I'd also be happy to do that today. Be happy to do that if people want to shoot an email to me. The Finance Committee gave this a good tire kicking, and I think we're comfortable that this is a reasonably tight and reasonable budget.
Thanks, Jim. And before I turn it over to questions, just a quick reminder of the folks that serve on the Finance Committee who did this good work.
Yes, and so we're talking about Kim, Mark Schauber, and Nancy Russell, along with myself.
All right. Thank you guys for all the work. And with that, Dan, you have a question.
Yeah, so forgive my ignorance, Jim, but what is collective bargaining supports? I can understand that it's down a whole bunch this year, but and is there any revenue associated with that? Just bring me up to speed. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, that's actually that is the Vsba, the big chunk of money we get from Vsba supports collective bargaining and a few other things. And so collective bargaining, what now that we have kind of at every 2-year negotiation cycle, this coming year is a down year, but there's still expenditures, and we're also likely to we're funding a little bit of PR work too for the for the employer commissioners to try to get the word out a little bit better. So there continue to be some expenses, but last year was a significantly higher expense, and this is a down year. But that's really fully covered by the Vsba funds. Correct, Sue? Carrie?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for the Finance Committee?
Yeah, and feel free, if you take a look through it and have a question comes up, you could probably shoot an email to anybody on the Finance Committee. Everybody knows it.
Yep. And this is in preparation then for a planned vote at the June meeting, correct, to approve the budget? Okay, so just want to make sure that was on everybody's radar. So if you have your questions, right, get them in now so that you can get answers to them prior to the June meeting or at the June meeting.
And I may have to attend the June meeting remotely anyway. So if you want to ask me questions, well,
you and Dan share the same. You and Dan share the same anniversary?
No, we just with 4 kids, the only time we could get the family vacation this time, we have to adjust to their schedules, and so the only time we get the whole family together happened to fit right in there.
All right. Thanks for the work on the budget. Greatly appreciated. The next item that we had in the agenda was the strategic plan monitoring report, but that came with a little caveat that was a sort of a read on your own, and appreciate all of the awesome work that's going on from our very, very small staff. So a huge thank you to you guys for everything that you do, especially as things go nuts right here toward the end of the legislative session. We're hoping for a Friday, we're all done, right, Sue? Okay, so thank you all. Next up would be the consent agenda, which is the April minutes. Any corrections or comments on the minutes? All right, seeing none, then we'll look for a motion.
I'll move it to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Amy
Second it.
seconds.
All right, Carrie, did you get that? That was Amy with the second. All those in favor, please raise your
Got it.
hand and leave it up. All right. Motion passes. New business, I'll just alert board members, expect in your inboxes fairly soon from me your chance to fill out the annual executive director evaluation form. It's that time of year again, folks. So I've got things teed up and ready to go, but just wanted to give you a heads up to expect that in your inboxes soon. Like last year, it is an online form that you can do, so no paper that you need to send back. I don't have anything else to report for new business. Sue, is there anything else that you can think of that we need to address?
Perhaps just a reminder about the June meeting being held. It's being held at Vsba's office, and it's starting at 9 a.m. So it's a different place and a different time than usual. And it's typically I don't want to say an all-day meeting, like you're not going to be there till 5 o'clock, but it's a pretty long meeting, that one, because we're doing the strategic planning work as well as a short regular business meeting.
So for those of you coming from the south, a little bit shorter. For those of you coming from the north, a little bit longer. And from either side, well, you can figure that out as well too.
And there is no meeting in July, so.
That's good too.
Yes.
Everybody is required to take vacation in July. All right. Don't think about school board stuff, at least for a few days. Okay. I don't have anything else tonight, folks. Sorry for either, depending on how you look at it, sorry for going long, or hooray for cutting us a little bit short. But with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. I just see hands. Somebody say it out loud, though.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Seconded. And all those in favor? Go ahead.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry
everyone.
for
Bye.
keeping you out late, but thank you so much for the work.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Enjoy the sunshine.